Hello, cats and kittens, felines and felidae, humans and variant humans, and every race, class, and subclass. Welcome to another installment of Brainy the RPG Cat. Um, Once again, tonight we are doing tabletop lore. This is my lovely little time of the week in order to be with all of you happy people and look over some significant and relevant current tabletop information. So, I'm very happy to get started. I do want to get started as quickly as I possibly can. And we do have a lot of material to cover. But, of course, first things first, let's go ahead and give our plug to GreatMedia.Games. We're partnered with GreatMedia.Games in order to bring you inexpensive TCG single cards. Visit GreatMedia.Games and use the code 10Infinity at checkout for 10% off your online purchase. So let's go ahead and let's get started. We've got a lot of material to cover once again. Let's try to do this with necessary expediency, all due force, significant amount of. Okay, I'm the one who's running things too long. So, first thing I should mention is that there is a content warning on tonight's stream. We're going to be having a frank, mature discussion of SC double pizza skis. We're going to be talking about sex. And, this is in relation to a really bad hot take that has been coursing through Twitter lately. But first things first is that I'm very happy to announce that I put out some of the first material from Tales of the Meowing Portal, which is going to be our upcoming actual play RPG. And I put out 3 promos, and we're going to watch them all. They've been all over social media so far, and we're going to just go ahead and we're going to air them really quickly on the channel. So let's go ahead, let's have a look. Where does Brainy the RPG Cat draw his water? We've been at this gig for so long that we can virtually see whenever somebody is willing to come up and answer that flyer. And so
all worlds.
All worlds. I feel as though you would be just the tiniest bit familiar with that, given that you are a race that is only found in the realm of Eberron.
He has declined medical analysis.
Well, believe me, if you were to do a scan on him, you would find things that would turn your skin white. Or your chrome, one of the two. From a well, actually. One Shots from the Meowing Portal premieres Monday, October 24th at 7 p.m. MST on twitch.tv/Brainy the RPG Cat. So the autofill-in, it seems that the autofill-in...
So, folks, the ketchup is flowing tonight.
What was that?
My goodness, old Donnie is having
Turn that off. Okay. The autofill in the captions tends to like to call me Brandy, which, once again, that's something I have to watch out for content-wise. Alright. Let's go ahead and let's go on and let's watch the second one. Otto is a machine that has taken the Hippocratic Oath.
This unit was suspicious of the little being following. It is not your intent to rob this unit. One moment. And Otto bends down and holds out his hand and emulates, here, kitty, 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 kitty. Processing. Negative response filed.
Emphasis on the hippo. One Shots from the Meowing Portal premieres Monday, October 24th at 7 p.m. MST on twitch.tv/Brainy the RPG Cat. Pretty sure I just have to press F11. Remember that one for next time. Alright, here's the third and here's the final one. Marin is quite literally a princess.
so it seems we're on the same boat. That's a human expression that I heard. We're not actually on a boat. It means that we're in a similar situation together.
Otto is fascinated by the disproportionate strength of the cat.
Marin has no reference level.
This is a uniform slightly more befitting of a...
So that's why they call it cat's pajamas.
Quite literal in a lot of other ways, too. One Shots from the Meowing Portal premieres Monday, October 24th at 7 p.m. MST on twitch.tv/Brainy the RPG Cat. Alright, and that is the 3 promos out of the way. So, let me take a half a second, let me turn on the music again. Oh, actually, I think it's been on this whole time. Oh, dear. Oh, well, you know, this is scuff, and as we say in the streaming business is that, you know, we fully anticipate and embrace scuff as a part of our playthrough. So, if you want to watch the videos without the background music still layered over it, by all means, go ahead and head over to any of my social media pages, TikTok, Twitch, and, oh no, actually I lowered the volume all the way. Something like that. Okay, so now the music is back on. I see that now. So go ahead and head to my social media if you'd want to see any of those promos again. And be sure to tune in on Monday the 24th at 7 p.m. for the premiere of the very first episode of Tales from the Meowing Portal. It's probably one of the best things that I've come up with so far, and I'm looking forward to bringing it to you. When we air the show is going to be pre-recorded. It would have to be pre-recorded, otherwise I wouldn't have been able to create the clips. But I will be here in the chat on the 24th, and I will be here to talk with chat and answer anybody's questions and just talk about the production of the stream. All of that good stuff right there. Hello, Sonar AF. Thank you very much for tuning in. It looks to be shaping up quite well. Yeah, I enjoy it. And so, you know, I've been able to enjoy it despite the fact that I have been editing it for hours and hours and hours. So, I know it's a good show. Because I still appreciate it. Despite all of the times that how long I've been editing it. I still enjoy it. So, well, the time, unfortunately, has come that we have to cover another terrible take in the realm of online Dungeons and Dragons. So, it was recently been said over Twitter, and I don't have the original post for this, but effectively, it is said that people are adamant against there not being sex workers in tabletop RPG games. Tabletop RPG games in situations like the actual play RPGs like I'm making, people who might be working on something like that, but also might be having that as a side gig, and the situations like that. And of course, the only reason I would bring it up is because it sounds completely absurd to me. It doesn't matter what somebody's job is, whatever anybody can do to earn their bills, and you know, we should not make any kinds of judgments on a person's character based on what they do for a living. But in addition to that, not only is there a precedent for sex work within Dungeons and Dragons, but it has also been a very prevalent part of the Dungeons and Dragons lore for a very long period of time. And so, without any further foofara, I do bring to you the courtesan. So I put up this definition from Google because I wanted to make absolutely sure that the things that we are going to be discussing are not sideways, semi-implied, or in any way whitewashed versions of the profession that we're going to be discussing. A courtesan, by definition, is a prostitute, especially one with wealthy or upper-class clients. And so that is the way that a courtesan is written into the dictionary. So we're not going to be in a situation where, we're saying, well, okay, courtesans, these are people who are part of the royal court, but they do other things. They entertain, they juggle, they sing, they dance. Whatever people would assume that they would do instead of sex work. Have these people not stopped by the Moonstone Mask? Ah, precisely. And you guys are getting, you guys are a little bit ahead of me when it comes to this discussion. Because here we have the Forgotten Realms Wiki. The Forgotten Realm Wiki is the section of the web that I always go to whenever I want to read about any Dungeons & Dragons material that is pre version 5. That is even something that's pre version 3.5. Before, in the Halcyon days before Dungeons & Dragons became property of Wizards of the Coast, a subsidiary of Hasbro, we frequently had courtesans as NPCs. And so, of all of the Forgotten Realms Wiki entries that discuss courtesans, 27 of them are on this wiki. And so this isn't even the full sample. This is just 27 notable courtesan NPCs that exist in the Forgotten Realms literature of Dungeons & Dragons. And so let's look at some of the trending ones. Probably the ones out here on the top that actually have the full illustrations on them. Okay. Ooh, full illustrations. Oh, well, guard your children's eyes. There isn't going to be any nudity. Sorry about that. So, Larissa Niathal was a courtesan and one of the Masked Lord of Waterdeep during the 14th century. Larissa had red hair. However, she was very skilled in using cosmetics and magic to alter her appearance. I personally don't understand why red hair would have anything to do with that. By some unknown means, Larissa was protected from all manners of poisons and drugs that made people fall asleep. In the public sphere, Larissa was superficial and empty-headed. However, she used that as a persona as a front to allow her to gain information from the many public officials she lured into her hands. In the year of the wave, Larissa was beaten, badly wounded by agents of the Knights of the Shield, working for Eriador Wintermist. She was found by Mert in her home and slowly nursed back to health. She lived in a house in Mulgamir's Way in the Castle Ward, where she had a maidservant named Marta, until she was killed. Larissa always wore a distinctive parapet of proof against poison necklace that was shaped like a golden phoenix rising from a cluster of rubies. She was one of the like-minded lords who served as of 1364, along with Mert, Kelvin, Doran, Kitten, and Brian. The group frequently met up with one another to enjoy each other's company. Doran was her closest friend, and she often turned to him for emotional support. So, there are some unfavorable elements about this. Effectively, she was working as a spy, and additionally, she was eventually tracked down by the kingdom that she was a part of, and she was killed as a result of that. But I think what's really significant from all of these entries is the fact that every one of these courtesans also seem to have a working class in Dungeons & Dragons. Larissa, it wouldn't be too hard to imagine her as being a rogue, even though courtesan was her background. So here's Pencheska. A succubus in the Doom Vault dungeon. Not just a not just a courtesan, but also a succubus. So a succubus race in addition to a courtesan background. Francesca was summoned by a lich named Toralvar of the Red Wizards of Thaze. Under Tharul's orders, she caused chaos in Daggerford by posing as a human courtesan Natesia. So she was a so effectively she was a succubus in the human disguise, and as a human disguise, she was a courtesan. In the late 1480s or 1490s, she conspired with Baroness Wynne Crom to capture Morwen Daggerford, the Duchess of Daggerford. While Duchess Morwen was imprisoned in Crom's hold, Francesca posed as the Duchess in Daggerford. She was unhappy with her situation as a slave of Tyrell. She did not immediately attack the Lich's enemies. She also appeared in the PC game Scourge of the Sword Coast. The DM's notes for Daden Thay suggest totally removing her if the PCs had not played the previous adventure. I don't really understand that. But then again, I never actually played the video games. So, Clara. Clara was a thief that lived in West Faerun during mid-14th century. When speaking to others, she seemed scared or mentally unwell with many pauses in her speech. She had a rather unremarkable entry in her life growing up on a farm. Sometimes later, she moved to the city of Alcatla with the hopes of becoming a stage actress. After earning a meager living as a courtesan for some time, she learned some thieving skills and embarked upon the life that accompanied them. As of early the year of the Gauntlet, she was imprisoned by the Flaming Fist within her headquarters in Baldur's Gate. She traveled back to Atlatka later that year, and was dominated by the vampire Hexet. The vampire compelled Clara to stay at the Copper Coronet Tavern in order to find a group to aid her. Referring to herself as Hexet, Clara sought to journey into the tomb, being known as Dragomir the Red. She promised prospective guardians they could find great treasure within the tomb. And so this was a story that actually played out in Baldur's Gate, which is one of the most famous modules in Dungeons & Dragons. I guess that means her appearance without meeting her prior would not make sense. Yeah, something like that. So we have courtesan who's a performer, a courtesan who was actually a part of a demonic race, and a courtesan who effectively served as a rogue and a spy. Which I think, they always have these characters as NPCs, but they always have these characters as NPCs in a way that they would be completely and totally workable within the context of a Dungeons & Dragons scenario. And so at no point during the history of Dungeons & Dragons have they ever made an official courtesan background. I guess, in that kind of situation, it's really like, okay, well, we have to look the other way when it comes to this. There's lots of people who have misgivings about actually having a race that is a sex worker. But nonetheless, as people recognize that this is actually just a part of the Dungeons & Dragons lore. So there are, in response to that, they just create a enormous amount of homebrews. And this is the homebrew. This is the current 5e homebrew for a courtesan in the Dungeons and Dragons wiki. And so, the courtesan: nobles, politicians, criminals, the common man, even an orc or two. At some point in your life, you've been with all manner of society's finest and worst through your profession. Your profession, whether through freedom of choice or a cruel twist of unfortunate events, they always seem to put that in for emphasis, is one that utilizes a very specific set of skills, the art of seduction. Though your circumstances may be unfortunate, you use them to your advantage. Whether it is using your body to persuade a client to change their mind on an issue, using your unique skill set to distract clients while you steal from right under their noses, or even playing the part of a cheap assassin. When making a character of this background, ask yourself these questions. What led your character to these circumstances? Was it a twisted and unfortunate fate, or was it a vocation of choice? How much do you charge for your services? Are you self-employed, or do you work under a pimp? Where do you work? Where is your place of work? These are the questions you must consider, and consider wisely, for they will shape your character at the beginning of your journey at least. Skill proficiencies are in persuasion and sleight of hand. Tool proficiencies are with a disguise kit. Languages are one standard language of your choice, and equipment is a set of fine clothes, a purse containing 5 gold, a disguise kit, and a small gilded mirror. Now we're getting into the sections that discuss background. Table 1, D4 table, history of service. I was under the wing of royalty, always loyal to their whims. I have broken so many hearts, either for gold or for fun. I used to offer my services in a brothel, or my services always opened even the best locked doors. Due to the history of your work, you can obtain free lodging in brothels or inns where you have conducted business in the past. The owners of these establishments can recommend other locations where you can be able to obtain discounted lodging by dropping their name or offering your services during your stay. If you encounter past clients, you may be able to obtain resources or other aid from them. Depending on your relationship with any client, this may be through blackmail or through seduction. Suggested characteristics. I am highly flamboyant. I like to exaggerate my movements and mannerisms. My speech is like a switch. I speak either very warmly or very coldly to anyone. I am unafraid to get up close and personal with some people or situations. I keep silent about any shortcomings I may be experiencing. I can't stand being pitied. I am extremely flirtatious, even with friends. I prefer to leave things finished rather than let bygones be bygones. I love being the center of attention, but I don't envy those who take that from me. Or I am quite hesitant to name my profession when asked about it. My ideals are cynicism. Everyone uses others. Why should I act any different? Sympathy. I sympathize with those who work hard but gain little in their endeavors. Pride. I love the work I do despite what my naysayers may call me. Personal gain. When I'm doing you a service, I'm yours. If not, I want nothing to do with you. Respect. My favorite clients are the ones who have reasonable expectations and don't stir up trouble. And independence. My body and soul are my own, no matter what anyone else might say about me. So there is just a significant amount of, sex worker pride in just the description of what a background would potentially be. Okay, bonds. I am highly skeptical when someone offers me something without asking for anything in return. I don't concern myself with the turmoil spawned from others' problems. There is someone I'm waiting for so we can live together. I know a secret about one of my clients that could cost me my life if revealed. My clients are all I have, and I have a child and I would do anything for them. And flaws. Despite my own ability to read people, I myself am very easily read by others. If someone has some kind of debt over me, I feel obligated to fulfill said debt no matter what. I sometimes expect or wish for others who would take care of my problems. Depending on the pay, I would do anything for a client. I use any means I have at my disposal to complete a goal, or I love presents or gifts and cannot refuse one, even if I know doing so is a bad idea. So, this is effectively the background for 5e. You could use this and then you could couple it with any race and any class in order to create a full-fledged character. And so, like I said, it's very unlikely that we're ever going to see an official version of this, even though that the characters have been used in the backgrounds in the past. And so that's just the argument going full circle at this point. But I do want to offer you just one more consideration, and this is another homebrew that I've happened across. And this is The Way of the Courtesan by Kogwoist, which is a form of courtesan class that is affiliated with monks. And we'll look into it. Monks of the Way of the Courtesan have mastered the ability to use their surroundings and their charming presence to defend themselves from unwanted suitors. Highly sought after as bodyguards by kings and queens alike, They can also make for excellent assassins. When you choose this tradition at 3rd level, your special martial arts training allows you to master your environment, turning common objects into weapons. Additionally, your grace and skill grants you a natural bonus in the arts and in performance. You gain the following benefits. Courtesan's weapons, you gain proficiency with whips and improvised weapons, and they count as monk weapons for you. Lover's blindness. If you hit a creature with one of the attacks granted by your flurry of blows, you can force it to make a wisdom saving throw. On a fail save, if it can't see any creatures other than you, it will not be able to see any creatures other than you until the start of your next turn. This is pretty interesting, yeah. Let's see, what's the next one? Lover's Denial. As a reaction, when you are hit by an attack, you can spend 2 key points to gain a +5 bonus to your AC against that attack. And bonus proficiencies are proficiency in performance, if you don't have it, and either painter's supplies or your choice of one musical instrument. When you reach 6th level, you have honed your skills even further and you've gained the following benefits. One is a wide-eyed courtier. You gain proficiency in insight and persuasion if you don't have it already. If you are already proficient in either skills, your proficiency bonus is doubled for any ability checks you make using that skill. And Venomous Snake's Grace. As an action, you touch a creature within reach and force it to make a Constitution saving throw. On a failed save, it is poisoned for 1 hour. On a successful save, it is immune to this ability for 24 hours and isn't poisoned. And, I think there might be another page to this, but I haven't been able to, yeah, I probably should have downloaded the PDF before this, but this is definitely something that might be worth looking up if you're just looking for courtesan. As a class, this homebrew has a courtesan monk already prepared for you. And so, it's time for my final thought. And then really, yeah, that's just how this is going to play out. I'm just going to give my final opinion about all of this information. I present this kind of material because I want to talk about this kind of, about these issues through the lens of Dungeons and Dragons. Because probably in this situation, the thing that I can speak towards the most is tabletop lore and how tabletop lore directly mirrors what already exists in real life. And this is especially true when it comes to courtesans and their direct relationship with the sex workers that we know in real life. It's very similar to the discussion that we had before when it came to the Hadozi and their parallels with real life. But, and we have to, speak to the elephant in the room at this point. That the Hadozi was an addition to an official Dungeons & Dragons book that I didn't like and several people didn't like. And in response, Dungeons & Dragons, owned by Wizards of the Coast, a subsidiary of Hasbro, came out and said, well, it was a mistake that we decided to continue to use this discussion material for a Hadozi because it was old and dated material. It is material, but more significant than the fact that it is dated material is the fact that it effectively creates a scenario where a subjugated race is made to be part of the underlying gameplay and the overwhelming sphere of fantasy and influence that exists in the game. As I have said before, you have a choice whether or not you want to play the Hadozi as having that kind of background, but it isn't a favorable background. It isn't a favorable background to be put in the official material, and it for the reasons that it does not express the values that we believe that as a society we should be having when it comes to those kinds of hard facts that exist in our history, right? Hadozi are by nature of their source, well, precisely. And so that's precisely the point. The thing is after having given that whole tirade about the Hadozi, well, why would I be here, actually defending the role of the courtesan? And the answer to that is very simple, is that when you're in a situation and you use the background of a Hadozi, the way that it was written in books dating back to 1984, it is demeaning to a certain group of people. And, in a similar but somewhat contrary situation, when you are demeaning the profession of a sex worker, then you are... I said all that wrong. Let me start over. When you're highlighting and you're negating the profession of a sex worker, then that is also demeaning to that person. So I personally don't believe that it is a contrary argument. I personally believe that for the exact same reasons that we reject the concepts that have built up the Hadozi, we should at least have a little bit more of recognition for the presence of sex work in Dungeons and Dragons based literature, and how it creates a direct parallel to the individuals who perform sex work in our society. So a significant amount of this is fiction, but fiction in its own way is its own sort of truth. It shines a lens on the things that we pay the most attention to. And so, I personally, I'm not in a situation where I actually know anybody who's simultaneously engaged in sex work and tabletop RPGs, but I personally don't think that it's right in order to make that kind of judgment call against them. Because we understand sex work to be something that is prevalent through all points of times and in all manners of fiction, including Dungeons and Dragons. And that's pretty much it. That's the extent of my final thought. Alright, so we've promoted my new stream. We've gotten heavy-handed on the subject of sex work. Now let's go ahead and let's continue our read-through of Eberron, Rising from the Last War. When we last left off, we had discussed all of the we discussed all of the the new races. Yeah, I think there were the new races in this group. And now we're going to go on to discussing a new element that is in the Eberron book, and it is Dragon Mark. So we've discussed a little bit about... We've discussed a little bit about Dragon Marks in the previous sections, and effectively, this is just a way that, magic is used to seal you into certain kinds of possessions, and certain kinds of races innately inherit certain types of Dragon Marks. And so, yeah, we'll go into that a little bit more in depth as we read tonight's stream. Devin says, I'm pretty much with you on all the above. Yeah. And so, this is a hard subject to discuss. I mean, even when I was reading about this on Twitter, they had abbreviated sex work to S work. And I already made the determination tonight to say that, I don't want to make that abbreviation. Because all you're doing is you're just continuing to shy away from the subject. But, effectively, the larger, the bigger answer, the bigger takeaway that we should be taking from all this is that, sex workers are people. They're people that have a specific kind of profession. And so we've never been in a time period in our lives where, there weren't some people that weren't engaging in some form of sex work. So to say that, to be the gatekeepers, to be the persons who say that we don't want this kind of thing in our lore, we don't want this sort of thing in our role play, just kind of really seems incredibly narrow-minded and short-sighted, because we all know that these situations exist. Alright. So, dragon marks. A halfling healer touches a dying man. The mark on her forehead blazes with blue fire as his wounds close and vanish. A half-orc bounty hunter reaches out with the power of his mark to find his prey. A human artificer touches a creation forge and the symbol on her hand flares. The eldritch machine rumbles to life. Each of these people possess a dragon mark, a symbol etched on the skin in colors more vivid than any tattoo, magical power made flesh. A dragon mark enhances the user's ability to perform certain tasks. For example, the mark of making guides the hands of the smith, while the mark of shadows helps its bearer avoid enemies. The power of a dragon mark can also manifest in more dramatic ways. The mark of storms can scatter enemies with a blast of wind, while the mark of shadows can weave illusions. I'm trying to figure out why dragon marks sound familiar. Well, I mean, we did go over them just a small amount the last time I did a tabletop lore, because we showed the 2 videos from Jordan who discussed dragon marks in those videos, and also we went over races, and many of the races also had a lot of discussion about dragon marks embedded within the races. So we're just going to learn a little bit more about, the background and the hierarchy of the dragon marks, and, delve a little bit deeper into whether or not, how player's choice affects the presence of a dragon mark on your character. Every dragon-marked house has traditions and secrets. Here are a few facts that apply to most of the houses. Most dragon-marked houses maintain enclaves in major cities. They serve as strongholds and hubs for house businesses. A city may also have any number of businesses tied to the house, but these are simply providing services and don't have any direct connection to the house leadership. Names and ranks. Any heir of the house who develops a dragon mark is allowed the prefix to the house name. For example, Merrick's de Kenneth. Despite the Korth Edict's prescription against the house members holding noble titles, regional leaders within the houses are called barons. Most houses are led by a matriarch or a patriarch, though some are led by a council. Emblems. Each dragon-marked house has an emblem, a distinctive symbol that features on their heraldry, official seals, crafted goods, and anything else that warrants the house's stamp of authenticity. Each house's emblem appears along with a related dragon mark on the following pages. The 12. The 12 is an organization that facilitates cooperation amongst the dragon-marked houses. Exoriates. Exoriates are dragon-marked heirs who have been cut off from their houses. Foundlings. Foundlings are people who have a dragon mark yet have no tie to a dragon-marked house. The Test of Sybaris. Dragon marks manifest around adolescence. Each house puts their heirs through a trial called the Test of Sybaris. The specific trials vary by house, but they place the heir in circumstances where they are likely to manifest a mark. If they have it, about half of the members of a bloodline manifest a mark. And the Korth Edicts. The Korth Edicts prevent the houses from owning land, holding noble titles, or maintaining military forces, with the exception for Deneath. The edicts were established when the 5 nations were united. Today, many in the houses feel the edicts have become obsolete in the wake of the last war. Sneeze coming. False alarm. Sorry about that. As I could feel, my nose getting stuffy as I was reading that last section. Okay. Creating a dragon mark character. Dragon marks manifest on certain members of a few species represented in rules by variant race options. For humans and half-orcs, a dragon mark is a variant race that replaces traits associated with those races. That's interesting. For half-elves, a dragon mark is a variant race that lets you keep some half-elf traits and replace others with the traits associated with your mark. And for dwarves, elves, gnomes, and halfling, the dragon mark replaces your subrace. So if you're making an elf character, you can choose to take the Mark of Shadow instead of being a wood elf or a high elf. There is another option related to dragon marks if your group uses feats, the Aberrant Dragon Mark feat. It grants potentially dangerous magical abilities. Aberrant dragon marks aren't tied to the dragon mark houses and can be taken by a character of any race. So, dragon marks and their houses. This is a chart. Detection of House Madani and of a half-elf race. Guard specialties are bodyguards in investigation and in risk management. I have a dragon mark on my fighter in DDO. That's why it sounded familiar. Okay. I mean, if you do want to tell me a little bit more about that, then feel free to drop that in chat. Finding. House of Thrashk, human or half-orc. Their guild specialties are bounty hunting, investigation, or prospecting. Handling of House Vidalis, human with guild specialties of animal training and breeding. Healing of House Durasco, halfling race, guild specialties are healing. Hospitality of House Galanda, race of halfling. Food, guild specialties are food, lodging, and urban information. The Dragon Mark of Making, House of Kenneth, race is human. Their guild specialties are manufacturing. Dragon Mark of Passage, House of Orion, race human. And the guild specialties are land transportation. Scribing, House of Cirrus, race of gnome. Guild specialties are communication, translation, and verification. Sentinels, House of Deneath, race human, and guild specialties are bodyguards and mercenaries. Shadow, Farian, and Thurani, belonging to the houses of Farian and Thulani, and both are elf races. The guild specialties are entertainment, espionage, entertainment, or assassination. Storm, House of Lorander, race is half-elf. Guild specialties are air and sea transportation. Warding, Kundarak, race of dwarf. Guild specialties are banking, storage, and prisons. Dragon marks and backgrounds. Dragon marks are bound to certain bloodlines, and by choosing a mark, you are establishing your character's blood connection to one of the families in the dragon marked houses. It's up to you to define your relationship to the house. Were you brought up in the house, or are you independent from it? This is best represented by your background. Consider the following options. Agent. You have a close ongoing relationship with your house. The house agent background is a good choice if you are actively working for the house. Alternately, you can take the noble background to affect a blood tie to the leaders of the house. Independent scion. You were raised or trained by the house, but you've kept your independence. That means you don't have many special privileges, but you also don't have responsibilities. Guild artisan is a good choice to reflect basic house training, but you choose entertainer for the mark of shadow, sailor for the mark of storms, soldier for the mark of sentinel, and so on. Excoriate. When a dragon-marked heir defies their house, they may be cut off from their family. In the past, your mark would be flayed from your body, although this mutilation is no longer practiced. Such exiles are still called exoriates. If you're an exoriate, consider what you did to deserve this punishment. Were you a criminal? Were you a charlatan? Or perhaps you were a sage engaged in forbidden research. A foundling. Your ancestors left the house long ago. You have no ties to the house and may not have known you were connected by blood before you manifested your dragon mark. As an outlander or an urchin, you might know nothing about the houses. As an acolyte or a hermit, you could have put your faith ahead of worldly things, choosing not to pursue a connection with the houses. Whatever you decide, this is an opportunity to talk with your DM about the role you'd like the house to play in the campaign. Flayed? Yes, flayed. It sounds awful, doesn't it? You just have the birthmark cut clear from your skin. The powers of the mark. Each dragon mark grants a set of abilities and reflect the inherent powers of the mark. Your dragon marked race gives you a set of traits derived from the magic of your mark. If you're a spellcaster, your dragon mark also fuels or channels some of your spells. Each dragon mark's description includes a list of dragon mark spells that flow from the magic of the mark. If you play a character with a spellcasting or the pack magic class feature, your dragon mark spells are added to the spell list for each of your spellcasting classes, thereby expanding the spell options available to you. You might also consider your dragon mark to be the source of any of all of your spells or class features. As a cleric with a mark of healing, you could say that your mark is the sole source of healing and supportive spells that you cast. Or your magic might come from a combination of your mark's power and your faith in the gods. As a warlock, your aberrant dragon mark might be your fiendish patron and the source of all your magic. These descriptions add flavor to your character, but don't change your character's abilities beyond the dragon mark spells added to your spell list. Over the centuries, the houses have developed tools that enhance and channel the powers of mark and make these items give the houses much of their economic power. A dragon mark appears on the skin. There are 12 known dragon marks, each unique in design and power. A dragon mark can appear on any part of the body. One half-elf could have the mark of detection across an eye, while another has it in the palm of the hand. Dragon marks appear with vivid shades of blue and purple and shimmer or even move slightly. When used, they grow warm to the touch and sometimes glow. A dragon mark can't be removed. Even if a limb bearing a dragon mark is cut away, the mark eventually manifests on another part of the bearer's body. All dragon marks share a similar initial appearance, but a dragon mark can grow in size and complexity as a character gains levels and uses it to cast more powerful magic. While dragon marks share the same general appearance, your dragon mark could have a unique quality. Roll on the dragon mark quirks table for inspiration. So this is the Dragon Mark Quirks table. D8, your mark is unusually small or faint. Your dragon mark is exceptionally large. Your dragon mark appears somewhere else on your body whenever you finish a long rest. Your dragon mark emits a dim light in a 5-foot radius for 10 minutes whenever you use it. Your dragon mark tingles and changes color for a moment when you're within 10 feet of someone with the same mark. When you use your dragon mark, it animates and adopts the appearance of your dragon mark house's emblem for 1 minute. Your dragon mark is an unusual color, or your dragon mark changes size whenever you use it. And so these are the illustrations. This is the mark of detection, this is the mark of finding, mark of handling, mark of healing, mark of hospitality, mark of making, mark of passage, mark of scribing, mark of sentinel, mark of shadow, mark of storm, and mark of warding. They look very pretty. Well, it kind of looks like a little bit of rhinestone on top of a bruise to me, but... And so, here are the descriptions. The mark of a detection is an inquisitive dream that sharpens powers of observation and intuition, allowing the bearer to draw connections and interpret clues others might miss. By actively drawing on its powers, a bearer can detect poisons and study the energies of magic. It is an eye. And as people know, that my own religious symbol is an eye too, so... I assume that if I were a wizard in Eberron, that I would probably have the mark of detection. So, the mark of detection in House Mediani, represented by the Basilisk Eye, the warning guild of House Mediani brokers the services of bodyguards and inquisitives. Mediani advisors specialize in risk assessment and management, protecting clients from both physical and social threats. While Mediani overlaps with the inquisitives of House Thrashk and the bodyguards of House Deneath, the warning guild specializes in subtle threats and complex mysteries. The members of House Mediani are half-elves with deep roots in Breland. Mediani has little interest in the power struggles that sometimes break out between the other Dragonmost houses. Many Mediani heirs are more interested in helping their communities than raw profit, and Mediani heirs often work with local law enforcement or help those who can't afford their services. The Eye. So as a variant half-elf, this becomes a mark of detection. Your wisdom score increases by 2, and 1 increases by 1. Deductive intuition. And when you make an intelligence, investigation, or a wisdom insight check, you can roll a d4 and add the number rolled to the ability check. Magical detection. You can cast detect magic and detect poison and disease skills with this trait starting at 3rd level. You can also cast see invisibility with it. When you cast any of the spells, you can't cast the spell with it again until you finish a long rest. And spells of the mark. If you have the spellcasting or pack magic class features, the spells on the mark of detection are added to the spell list of your spellcasting class. At 1st level, detect evil and good, detect poison and disease. At 2nd level, detect thoughts and find traps. At 3rd level, clairvoyance, non-detection. At 4th level, arcane eye and divination. And at 5th level, legend lore. The mark of finding. The mark of finding sharpens the senses, guiding the hunter to prey. Alone among the dragon marks, the mark of finding is carried by 2 races, humans and half-orcs. It first appeared in the Shadow Marches, where clan hunters used it to find their prey. House Darashk. House Darashk traditionally licensed inquisitives and bounty hunters. Recently, the House's Finders Guild has expanded into Dragon Shard prospecting. As Dragon Shards are the lifeblood of the magical economy, the House's talent has given them new wealth and influence. Thrashk is the youngest of the dragon-marked houses and hasn't embraced all of the customs of the others. The distinct clans that united to form the house remain important, and heirs of the family usually retain their family names rather than adopting the Thrashk as tradition dictates. Variant, half-orc or human with the mark of finding. Your wisdom score increases by 2 and your constitution increases by 1. Dark vision, you can see in dim light within 60 feet of you as if it were bright light, and darkness as if it were dim light. You can actually add dark vision to humans by using this. Hunter's intuition. When you make a wisdom perception or a wisdom survival check, you can roll a d4 and add the number rolled to the ability check. Finder's magic. You can cast a hunter spell with this trait starting at 3rd level. You can also cast a locate object spell with it. Once you cast either spell with this trait, you can't cast that spell with it again until you finish a long rest. Wisdom will be your spellcasting ability for these spells. Languages. You can speak, read, and write Common and Goblin. And spells of the mark, at level 1 you get Fairy Fire and Longstrider. Level 2, locate animals or plants or locate objects. Level 3, Clairvoyance, speak with plants. Level 4, Divination, locate creature. And level 5, Commune with nature. That's almost all of the ranger spells. If you're going to add a hunter's mark, you might want to consider a class other than ranger, because this is just going to give you the ranger at default. The mark of handling. The mark of handling gives its bearer a primal connection to beasts in the natural world, granting the power to calm and coax. This extends beyond purely natural animals. The mark allows its bearer to guide a hippogriff as easily as a horse. Represented by the hippogriff, House Vidalis plays an important role in daily life, offering meat, mounts, and more. Vidalis isn't one of the most powerful houses, but its barons are generally content. They're more interested in discovering new monstrosities than engaging in politics. The current head of the house, Dallin Vidalis, disdains the use of a title and has no aspirations to nobility or greatness for himself or his house. House Vidalis breeds and trains beasts for a wide range of purposes. While the house maintains that the vast cattle ranches and trains and horses and hounds, the mark of handling allows Vidalis to work with the more exotic creatures as well. Griffins, hippogriffs, and even bullets can be bred and trained. Even with the mark of handling, this is dangerous work. But these exotic creatures aren't enough to satisfy the most innovative members of the house, leading to the practice of mage breedings. Using Dragon Shard focus items, Valdis has found ways to create magical creatures. Typically, this results in a superior version of a creature, an animal that is stronger, faster, and smarter, but rumors claim that Vidalis has crafted monsters of its own. With the mark of handling, your wisdom increases by 2, and another ability of your choice increases by 1. Wild intuition, when you make a wisdom or intelligence check, you can roll a d4 and add the number rolled to the ability check. When you cast animal friendship and speak with animals with this trait, you require no material component. Once you cast either spell with this trait, you can't cast it again until you finish a long rest. Starting at third level, you can target a beast or monstrosity when you cast Animal Friendship or Speak with Animals. And spells in the mark, if you have the spellcasting or the pack magic class feature, the mark of handling spells table are added to the following spell list of your spellcasting class. First level, Animal Friendship, Speak with Animals. Second level, Beast Sense, Calm Emotions. Third level, Beacon of Hope, Conjure Animals. Level 4, Aura of Life and Dominate Beast. And level 5 is Awaken. The Mark of Healing. A halfling with a mark of healing can save a life with a touch, restoring vitality and the will to live. When dealing with mundane medicine, the mark helps its bearer sense the nature of maladies, aiding them in finding a cure. When equipped with Dragon Shard focus items, the mark can even draw the dead from the depths of the lore. The Healers Guild provides a vital service to Kovare, and the last war ensured there was a great need for healers. The leader of the guild, Baron Ulara de Durasco, is much beloved in the northwestern Corvair for her instrumental role in combating an epidemic in that region a decade ago. And Durasco medics served in every nation's army during the war. The guild runs schools that teach medicines, as well as houses of healing that provide both mundane and magical services. If it could save a life, it is probably marked by the House Durasco Griffin emblem, and it will come with a cost. If you have the gold, Durasco healers can remove a disease instantly with lesser restoration. If you can't afford such a service, they will treat you with mundane techniques. House Durasco is a source of potions of healing. While many criticize Durasco's demands for payment, the house maintains it's not about greed. It's about ensuring the prosperity of the house so it can continue to help future generations. So, if you're a halfling with a mark of healing, your wisdom increases by 1. When you make a wisdom or medicine check or an ability check using an herbalism kit, you roll a d4 and add the number rolled to the ability check. You can cast Cure Wounds spell with a healing touch starting at 3rd level. You can also cast lesser restoration with that. Once you cast either spell with this trait, you can't cast the spell with it again until you finish a long rest. And spells of the mark. If you have spellcasting or pact magic, then you can cast Cure Wounds and Healing Word at level 1, Lesser Restoration and Prayer of Healing at level 2, Aura of Vitality and Mass Healing Word at level 3, Aura of Purity and Aura of Life at level 4, and Greater Restoration at level 5. The Mark of Hospitality. They may not always bear gold, but a halfling with a Mark of Hospitality is sure to be rich in friends. The magic of the mark allows the bearer to keep a place clean and to heat, chill, and season food, but also keeps the bearer connected with others. The majority of inns, taverns, restaurants in the Five Nations are either directly owned by House Galanda or licensed by its Holisters Guild. Most people give little thought to House Galanda when compared to the soldiers of House Deneath and the factories of House Cannith. An alliance of innkeepers seems harmless and inconsequential, but Galanda's strength lies in charm and connections. A Galanda innkeeper hears many things. If you want to know what's really going on in a community, talk to the halfling bartender. The leaders of House Galanda don't sell information. They prefer to build friendship and deal in favors. But should a Galanda baron ever truly need something, they likely have a favor that they can call in. Galanda has a number of bound businesses, franchises run directly by the house. The Gold Dragon Inn is such a business, with Gold Dragon Inns being found in every major city, each serving a familiar menu and providing similar services. But many Galanda heirs take pride in creating their own unique businesses. There are also many independent restaurants, inns, and taverns licensed by House Galanda. The Blink Dog emblem is an assurance that the locale meets Galanda standards of health and quality, but not every inn is run by a halfling. If you have the Mark of Hospitality, your charisma increases by 1. You can make charisma persuasion checks or an ability involving a brewer's supplies or a cook utensils by adding in d4 and the number rolled to the ability check. Innkeeper's Magic. If you know Prestidigitation, you can also cast Purify Food and Drink and Unseen Service spells with this trait. Once you cast either spell, you can't use that spell again until you finish a long rest. And then the Mark of Hospitality spells list will be: first level is Good Burying Sleep, Second level is Aid in Calm Emotions. Third level is Create Food and Water. Leo Mudd's Tiny Hut. Fourth level is Hour of Purity. And Mordekainen's Private Sanctum. And fifth level is Hallow. The Mark of Making. The Mark of Making provides its bearer through any act of creation. The bearer of the mark can mend broken things with a touch, and always has a minor magic item they've been working on. An artificer or a wizard will get the most out of the mark, but anyone can find a use for an enchanted blade. House Kenneth dominates all forms of manufacturing, both mystical and mundane. Gorgon Mart Kenneth Forge holds use streamlined forms of production to quickly produce common goods. Even independent artisans often learn their trade at Kenneth Academies and adhere to Kenneth standards. Shire Pub Mood. I think you're referring to the Mark of Hospitality when it comes to that. The House of Making builds the tools the other houses rely upon and has always been the unspoken leader of the 12. The last war was a time of great opportunity for Kenneth. Every nation wanted weapons and warforged along with mundane items and armor. The war raised the house up and then tore it down. House Kenneth was based in Sire, and the morning destroyed the house leadership and key facilities. Now 3 barons jockey to fill the leadership vacuum. The alchemist Jorlana of Fairhaven, weaponsmith Zorlan of Korth, and Merix and Sharn, innovator of Warforged. It remains to be seen whether one of these leaders will unite the house, or if it will shatter under the strain. If you're an heir, you should decide which of these barons you serve, or if you have other ideas about the house's future. So, with the Mark of Making, intelligence increases by 2, and another ability of your choice increases by 1. Artisan's Intuition, when you make an Arcana check, you can roll a d4 and add the number rolled to the ability check. Maker's Gift, you gain proficiency with one of the Artisan's tools of your choice. Spellsmith, you know the Mending cantrip. You can also cast Magic Weapon with this trait. Once you cast that, you can't cast it again until you get a long rest. And the spells are first level Identify Tensor's Floating Disc, second level Continual Flame and Magic Weapon, third level Conjure Barrage and Elemental Weapon, fourth level Fabricate and Stone Shape, and fifth level Creation. The Mark of Passage. The Mark of Passage governs motion, allowing its bearer to move with uncanny speed. The bearer of the mark can even slip through space in the blink of an eye. The House of Passage manages land transportation. The lightning rail is the house's most dramatic tool, but Orion also runs caravans and coaches across the length of Corvair. Dragon Shard focus items ensure that the fastest vehicles are those driven by heirs with the Mark of Passage. But the house also licenses unmarked teamsters. The Couriers Guild, Orion delivers mail and packages, and has a branch that handles more covert and dangerous deliveries. Orion has dominated transportation for centuries, but now the house is facing challenges. The Mournland is a dramatic obstacle for ground transportation, and Baron Quanti de Orion has had tremendous difficulties securing funds to rebuilding the lightning rail across the blasted landscape. Indeed, he spends most of his time away from his headquarters in Undair trying to raise funds for the project while keeping an eye on house operations. He travels across western Corvair in his personal lightning rail coach, the Silver Unicorn, a reference to the House Unicorn's emblem. And let's see, Mark of Passage. With the Mark of Passage, your dexterity increases by 2 and another ability increases by 1. Your base walking speed increases to 35 feet. When you make a dexterity acrobatics check or any ability check to operate or maintain a land vehicle, you can roll a d4 and then add the number rolled to the ability check. You can cast Misty Step once with this trait, and you regain the ability to cast it when you finish a long rest. And the spells are going to be level 1, Expeditious Retreat and Jump. Level 2, Misty Step, Pass Without Trace. Level 3, Blink and Phantom Steed. Level 4, Dimension Door and Freedom of Movement. And level 5, Teleportation Circle. The Mark of Scribbing. Hello, Queen Vampiress. Thank you very much for tuning in. Yeah, I said scribbing. I meant scribing. The Mark of Scribing. The Mark of Scribing deals with communication, both the written and the spoken word. A gnome who bears a mark can feel words as though they are living creatures. struggling to make their meaning known. The mark provides a range of gifts. It translates languages, but also allows its bearers to communicate with others at a distance. Bearing the emblem of the cockatrice, the gnomes of House Silvus facilitate communication. This is seen most literally in speaking stones, magic items allowing a Civis heir to send a short message to another speaking stone. House Civis's message stations employ these items as the backbone of their long-distance communication network. The house also trains and licenses scribes, notaries, interpreters, cartographers, barristers, heralds, bookbinders, and others who work with words. House Civis has an especially close relationship with House Kundarak, as Kundarak letters of credit must be notarized with the Civis arcade mark. House Civis takes great pains to maintain the trust of its clients and hold a position of absolute neutrality in all disputes, whether between houses or nations. Civis gnomes are typically friendly, curious, and engaging, but that kindly exterior might conceal a scheming mind. Gnomes have a natural love of intrigue, and different families within the house often engage in subtle schemes and feuds. Doyen Larissa Lariman, the leader of the house, takes pains to ensure that these intrigues never threaten the house or its reputation. A gnome with the mark of scribing has their charisma score increased by 1. When they make an intelligence, history check, or any other ability check using calligrapher's supplies, you can roll a d4 and add the number rolled to the ability check. You know the message cantrip. You can also cast Comprehend Languages once with this trait, and then that will recharge after a long rest. And then at 3rd level, you can cast Magic Mouth with this trait, and you can cast it again after finishing a long rest. The spells of the mark for scribing are 1st level Comprehend Languages, Illusory Script, Animal Messenger and Silence, Sending in Tongues, Arcanite Confusion, and Dream. The Mark of the Sentinel. The Mark of the Sentinel warns and protects. It heightens senses and reflexes, allowing an heir to respond threats with uncanny speed. It can also shield its bearer from harm. Whether on the battlefield or on the ballroom, someone who carries the Mark of Sentinel is prepared for danger. House Deneth was born in Connaught, and war flows in its veins for centuries. The Blade Marks Guild of House Deneth has governed the mercenary trade, while warriors of the Mark of Sentinel are among its most elite forces. House Deneth brokers the services of a wide range of soldiers, including Valinor war bands and the Goblins of Drone. Beyond the battlefield, the Defenders Guild provides exceptional bodyguards for those who can afford their services. House Deneth is also renowned for its Sentinel Marshals, agents who hold the authority to pursue criminals and enforce the law along the length of Corvair. The Sentinel Marshals hold the honor of their house in their hands. Being a marshal is a privilege, and it comes with high expectations. Despite its might and the desire of some members to flex their military muscles, House Deneth has always maintained absolute neutrality, selling its services to all sides of a conflict. So with the Mark of the Sentinel, Constitution increases by 2 and Wisdom by 1. Sentinel's Intuition, when you make an insight or perception check, you can roll a d4 and add the number rolled to the ability check. Guardian Shield, you can cast the Shield spell once with this trait, and cast it again after you finish a long rest. Vigilant Guardian, when the creature you see within 5 feet of you is hit by an attack roll, you can use your reaction to swap places with that creature, and get hit by the attack instead. Once you use it again, you can't until you finish a long rest. And then the spells are level 1, Compel Duel, Shield of Faith, level 2, Warding Bond, Zone of Truth, level 3, Counter Spell, Protection from Energy, level 4, Death Ward, Guardian of Faith, and level 5, Bigby's Hand. The Mark of the Shadow. The Mark of the Shadow lets an elf weave illusions, crafting magic to distract or delight. It also allows its bearer to sculpt shadows, making it easy to avoid detection. Elves have carried the Mark of Shadow for thousands of years. The Mark's barrels left Arianel after the conflict that wiped out the Mark of Death and established House Farion in Corvair. These elves are expert entertainers, giving them access to all manners of places and secrets. Known to few, there has always been an elite force of spies and assassins within House Farolan. Only special clients, nobles, merchant lords, and the like have access to these spies. Toward the end of the last war, a bitter feud broke out between the major families of the house, known as the Shadow Schism. It resulted in a split between Fairland and the Fountain of House Tarani. House Fairland continues to offer entertainment and espionage in the lands west of the Mournland, while Tarani operates in the eastern lands. As a rule, Fairland elves are the better spies, and Thuriani agents are the superior assassins. Thuriani and Fairland maintain a peaceful relationship, but rivalries run deep. Baron Ellar de Tharni is said to be responsible for the Shadow Schism. Ruling from the house of an enclave in Regalport, he is always accompanied by a shadowy pair, rumored to be embodiments of Shadow itself. The Displacer Beast serves as the young house's emblem. If you're an elf with the Mark of the Shadow, then your charisma increases by 1. Cunning intuition, you can make a charisma or dexterity check, then roll a d4 and add a number roll to the ability check. Minor illusion, starting at 3rd level, you can cast invisibility spell with this trait, and you can gain the ability to cast it again when you finish a long rest. And then your spells are going to be Disguise, Level 1, Disguise Self Silent Image. Level 2, Darkness Pass Without Trace. Level 3, Clairvoyance Major Image. Level 4, Greater Invisibility, Hallucinatory Terrain. And Level 5, Mislead. The Mark of the Storm. Wind and water welcome the half-elves who carry the mark of the storm, and some learn to call on the power of the storm itself. House Lorander has long ruled the seas. Their kraken-marked galleons harness air and water elementals and are faster than any mundane vessel. Control of sea and river trade gave Lorander considerable power. Now they reach out to the skies. Merely a decade old, Lariander airships have undermined the Lightning Rail's domination of overland travel. House Lariander also controls the air in a literal way. The Raincolors Guild can use the Mark of Storms to control the weather for its clients. For many of the house's members, the house is more than a family of business. It's a private island enclave, Stornholm. It's the closest thing they have to a homeland. So, as with the Mark of the Storm, your charisma increases by 2, your dexterity by 1. When you make a dexterity acrobatics check or any ability check involving Navigator's Tool, you can roll a d4 and then add the number to the ability check. You have the resistance to lightning damage. You know the Gust cantrip. Starting at 3rd level, you can cast a Gust of Wind and regain the ability to cast it once you finish a long rest. And then spells are level 1, Feather Fall and Fog Cloud. Level 2, Gust of Wind and Levitate. Level 3, Sleet Storm and Wind Wall. Level 4, Conjure Minor and Elementals. Conjure Minor Elementals and Control Water. And level 5 is Conjure an Elemental. Gust. You seize the air and compel it. That's interesting. I think this is just something that this is a cantrip that is added to people who have the who have storms, who have the Mark of Storms. You seize the air and compel it to create one of the following effects at a point you see within range. A medium or smaller creature that you choose must succeed on a strength saving throw or be pushed 5 feet away from you. You can create a small blast of air capable of moving one object that is neither held nor carried and weighs no more than 5 pounds. That object is pushed 10 feet away from you. Or you can create a harmless sensory effect using air, such as causing leaves to rustle, wind to slam shutters closed, or clothing to billow oppressively in the breeze. The Mark of Warding. The Mark of Warding helps its bearers to protect things of value. Using the mark, a dwarf can weave wards with mystic force. It also provides its bearer with an intuitive understanding of locks used to protect and seal. If you want to keep something safe, jewels, secrets, prisoners, Kundarak is here to help. The Defenders Guild of House Kundarak trains locksmiths, security specialists, and more. It maintains the prison of Dreadhold along with a number of smaller prisons. As useful as these services are, it is the banking guild that truly defines the house. Kundarak lands in the moorholds include deep veins of precious metals, which the dwarves use to establish the banking industry of Corvair. Anyone who makes a living from coin from bankers to goldsmiths likely learned their skills at House Kundarak. The security of banks bearing the Kundarak Manticore emblem is legendary, A house also provides a special service to those who can afford it. A system of extra-dimensional vaults allowing a client to store their goods in one location and retrieve them at any other Kundarak enclave. Dragon marks are really cool, but goodness, they're overwhelming in scope. It's almost feels as though you're adding a second class to a character. And effectively, you are going to be a low-level spellcaster using any class if you additionally have a dragon mark. So, under Mark of Warning, your intelligence score increases by 1. And when you make an investigation check or an ability check using Thieves' Tools, you can roll a d4 and add a number rolled to the ability check. You can cast the Alarm and Mage Armor spells with this trait starting at 3rd level. You can also cast the Arcane Lock spell with it. Once you cast any of the spells, you can't cast that spell again until you finish a long rest. And the spells on the mark are level 1, Alarm, Armor of Agathis, level 2, Arcane Lock and Knock, level 3, Glyph of Warding and Magic Circle, level 4, Liamon's Secret Chest, Mordenkainen's Faithful Hound, and level 5, Anti-Life Shell. It really is like taking a +1 in some other class. It's almost like instantaneously multi-classing. And all of those multi-classes are effectively going to be sorcerer or warlock adjacent, except for a few of the ones that have to do with things like hospitality and roguishness and so effectively I think what they've done is they've made a dragon mark for for every single class that already exists, but it also kind of seems like it's a bit of overkill when you put the dragon marks of a class onto somebody who has those same basic class abilities. I don't personally know. I think I'm going to need to build a character in order to figure this out for sure. That might be something that I might experiment with. That might be something that I do in a future tabletop lore, something like that. The aberrant dragon marks. The 12 dragon marks are predictable and their powers are generally constructive, but there is another kind of dragon mark which is dangerous to both the bearer and the people around them. Aberrant marks often appear when people from different dragon mark familiarities produce a child, and for this reason such unions are forbidden by the 12. But aberrant dragon marks can appear on members of any race, any age, and regardless of bloodline. No two aberrant dragon marks are exactly alike, even if they grant the same power. They might manifest in different ways. It usually takes time for a character to learn to control an aberrant mark, and in time people might be hurt by it. This factor has led to the general suspicion that people with ancient aberrant dragon marks are dangerous. It feels like a bit much. So probably one of the things that really distinguishes this is that this is a standalone book, but it probably discusses one of the only alternate areas that exists in Dungeons & Dragons version 5e. Every other book up until this point, was capable of being run in the Sword Coast, in the region around Baldur's Gate. The only other exception would be the I forget what that book is called. The Guide to Wildemont, which is a book that contains material that was taken from Magic the Gathering. It reminds me of Total Conversion mods. Mods of old PC games, including Counter-Strike, spun off from Half-Life. Yeah. And effectively, that's what it is that, you're taking something and then you're just building on top of it until it's a completely different game. And it's an interesting thing to play, Since I'm running this multiverse campaign, it's probably going to be inevitable that I'm going to do at least one episode within the realm of Eberron. But then I also just kind of have to think about what are the differences going to be when I bring in ordinary build characters into Eberron. What kind of advantages that they might have, what kind of disadvantages they might have. Those are questions I'm going to need to ask myself. So, if you've manifested an aberrant dragon mark, you gain the abilities to increase your Constitution score by 1. Learn a cantrip of from the Sorcerer's spell list. When you cast a first level spell through your mark, you expend one of your hit dice and roll it. And you can also develop a random flaw. One is that your mark is a source of constant physical pain. Your mark whispers to you, its meaning can be unclear. When you're stressed, the mark hisses audibly. The skin around the mark is burned, scaly, or withered. Animals are uneasy around you. You have a mood swing every time you use your mark. Your looks change slightly when you use the mark, or you have horrific nightmares after you use your mark. At a DM's option, a character who has the aberrant dragon mark has a feat of manifesting greater power. Upon reaching 10th level, such character has a 10% chance of gaining an epic boon from among the options in Chapter 7 of the Dungeon Master Guide. If the character fails to gain a boon, they have a 10% chance the next time they gain a level. So that is tremendous because you're not usually allowed to get a boon until you've actually maxed out the levels of your character. But if you reach 10th level as this character, then you get to toss a coin, and if it lands in your favor, then you're actually going to be able to get that boon later, and you're going to have that as part of your aberrant hit character. It's not something that's going to happen in a lot of campaigns, but it is. Wow, that is amazing. And so the house agent background is that of a background of somebody who doesn't have a dragon mark but has sworn fealty to a dragon marked house. If you have a dragon mark, you're likely a member of one of the house's families. Otherwise, you're an outsider who hopes to make your fortune through the house. Your main task is to serve as the eyes of your house, but you can be called upon at any time to act at its hand. Such missions can be perilous but lucrative. Skill proficiencies are investigation and persuasion. 2 proficiencies come from the tool proficiencies table. And you get a set of fine clothes, a house signet ring, identification papers, and a purse containing 20 gold points. So if you are one of the proficiencies of House Kenneth, you get alchemist supplies. Deneth, 1 gaming set and vehicles. Galando, you get brewer supplies and cooking utensils. Durasco, alchemist supplies and an herbalism kit. Kandarak, thief tools and tinker tools. Larendar, navigator's tools and vehicles. Medani, disguise kit and thieves tools. Orion, 1 gaming set and vehicles. Ferrolan, 1 disguise kit and 1 musical instrument. Civis, calligrapher tools and forgery kit. Tharashk, 1 gaming set and thieves tools. Tharani, 1 musical instrument and a poisoner's kit. And Vidalis, 1 herbalism kit and vehicles. And so, you always gather information for your house, but when a baron gives you a specific mission, what sort of work do you do? You could be acquisitioner, an investigator, a research and development person, a security person, an intimidation person, an exploration person, a negotiation person, or a covert operations person. So, in house connections, as an agent of your house, you always get food and lodging for yourself and your friends at a house enclave. When the house assigns you a mission, it will provide you with the necessary supplies and transportation. House agents are diverse. Consider the house you serve and the work you do when you're choosing your characteristics. Your personality traits: I'm always looking to improve efficiency. I love to share trivia about my house's business. I'll never forget an insult about me or my house. I am enthusiastic about everything that my house does. I represent my house and take pride in my looks, or I am critical of monarchies and limits on the houses. Ideals: my house serves a vital function and its prosperity will help everyone. I will uphold traditions of my house and bring honor to my family. I will abandon old traditions and find better ways to do things. I will ensure the prosperity of my house and wield its power on myself. I want to learn all I can, both for my house and for my own curiosity. And I want to ensure that me and mine enjoy the best things in life. Bonds: my house is family. I would do anything for it. I love someone from another house, but that relationship is forbidden. Someone I love was killed by a rival faction within my house, and I will have my revenge. Uh, I don't care about the house as a whole, but I would do anything for my old mentor. The house must evolve, and I will be the one to lead the evolution. Or I am determined to impress the leaders of my house and to become a leader myself. And flaws. I'm fixated on following official protocols. I'm obsessed with conspiracy theories and worried about societies and hidden demons. My house and bloodline make me the best. My secret could get me expelled from my house. My religious beliefs aren't widespread in my house. Or I am working for a hidden faction in my house that gives me secret assignments. Okay. So, this next chapter has to do with character creation. From what I can best figure is that they are mostly focused on artificers in this situation, because it's not that artificers are exclusive to this setting, but it is really that artificers are probably one of the more important areas of this setting. So, Artificer. Masters of unlocking magic in everyday objects, artificers are supreme inventors. They see magic as a complex system, waiting to be decoded and controlled. Artificers use tools to channel arcane power, crafting magical objects. To cast a spell, an artificer could use alchemist supplies to create a potent elixir, calligrapher supplies to inscribe a sickle of power on an ally's armor, or tinkerer's tools to craft a temporary charm. The magic of artificers is tied to their tools and their talents. In the world of Eberron, arcane magic has been harnessed in a form of a science and deployed throughout society. Artificers reflect this development. Their knowledge of magical devices and their ability to infuse mundane items with the magic allows Eberron's most miraculous projects to continue. During the last war, artificers were marshaled on a massive scale. Many lives were saved because of the inventions of brave artificers, but countless lives were also lost because of the mass destruction unleashed by their creations. Nothing excites an artificer quite like uncovering a new metal or discovering a source of elemental energy. An artificer circles new inventions and strange discoveries create the most excitement. Artificers who wish to make their mark must innovate, create something fresh, rather than iterate on familiar designs. This drive for novelty pushes artificers to become adventurers. Eberron's main travel routes and populated regions have long since been explored. Thus, artificers speak the frontiers of civilization in hopes of making the next great discovery in arcane researchers. When creating an artificer, think about your character's relationship with the artisan who taught them their craft. Does the character have a rival? Talk to your DM about the role played by artificers in the campaign and the sort of organizations you might have ties to. Eberron is the world most associated with artificers. I think this is to the point that I had made just as I began to read this. Yet the class can be found throughout the D&D multiverse. In the Forgotten Realms, the island of Lanton is home to many artificers, and in the world of Dragonlance, Tinker Gnomes are often members of this class. The strange technologies and the barrier peaks of the world of Greyhawk have inspired some folk to walk the path of the artificer. And in Mystara, various nations employ artificers to keep airships and other wondrous devices operational. In the city of Sigil, artificers share discoveries from throughout the cosmos, and one in particular, the gnome inventor Vi, has run a multiverse-spanning business from there since leaving the world of her birth, Eberron. In the world city of Ravnica, the Izzet League trains numerous artificers, the destructiveness of whom is unparalleled in other worlds, except perhaps by the Tinker Gnomes of Krynn. Okay, so quick build, quick build, highest ability score is intelligence, followed by constitution or dexterity, and then choose guild artisan. Optional rules: multi-classing, ability score minimum, proficiency gain, spell slot. As an artificer, you gain the following class features. Hit dice are 1d8 plus artificer. Hit points at first level are 8 plus your constitution modifier, and hit points at higher levels are 1d8 or 5 plus your constitution modifier per artificer level after first. Proficiencies are in light armor, medium armor, and shield. Weapons are simple weapons. Tools are thieves' tools, tinker's tools, or one type of artisan tool of your choice. Saving throws are constitution or intelligence. And skills are choose two from arcana, history, investigation, medicine, nature, perception, or sleight of hand. Equipment is you start with the following equipment in addition to the equipment granted by your background. Any 2 simple weapons, a light crossbow and 20 bolts, your choice of studded leather armor or scale mail and thieves' tools, and a dungeoneer's pack. If you forgo this, then you can start with 1 5d4 times 10 gold points to buy your equipment. Optional rule, firearm proficiency. The secrets of creating and operating gunpowder weapons have been discovered in the various corners of the D&D multiverse. If your dungeon master has rules on firearm and your artificer has been exposed to the operation of such weapons, your artificer is proficient with them. And so this is the artificer table. At first level, proficiency features are magical tinkering and spellcasting. 2 cantrips are known, and 2 first level spell slots are known. You gain the ability at level 2 to infuse an item. You get 4 infusion points. You get 2 infused items. You get 2 known cantrips, and then 2 first level spells, which is the same as first level. At third level, you get Artificer Specialist and the right tool of the job. Then 4, 2, 2, and 3, which only grants you 1 additional first level. Ability 4th level is ability score improvement. 5th level is Artificer Specialist feature. 6th level is tool expertise. 7th level is flash of genius. 8th level is ability score improvement. 9th level is Artificer Specialist temple. 10th level is magic item adept. 11th level is spell storing item. 12th level is ability score improvement. 13th is no special ability, but you do gain your first level 4 spell slot. Level 6 is magic item savant. Level 14 is magic item savant. Level 15 is artificial specialist feature. Level 16 is another ability score improvement. Number 17th is no special item, but you get your first level 5. Level 6 is your magic item master. Level 19 is your ability score improvement. And level 20 is the soul of artifice. And so, I think I'm going to, just skim the specific descriptions of things. You know, this is just up to you if you want to build a standard artificer. So, that's effectively what that is. And so, they're offering Artificer as a unique class within this book, but they're simultaneously saying that it's just as easy in order to build in any other module, and I am pretty sure it is in one of the 2 class modules. That would have to be either Xanathar's Guide to Everything or Tasha's Cauldron of Anything. I'm pretty sure in one of those 2 books, Artificer also exists as a class. So, character creation group patrons. This is untread territory for me, so I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to start reading it. When creating characters for an Eberron campaign, consider choosing a patron for your adventuring party. This section describes general categories of patrons, and also examples of each kind of patron from across Corvair. Work as a team with your DM to select a group patron. As an alternative, your characters could form your own organization that one day might stand among the great powers of the world. Many mighty dragon-marked houses, small hometown newspapers, national rulers, powerful immortals, and various other organizations and individuals hold the reins of power in Corvair. They bind the fabric of society together, and they are responsible for much of the change that occurs in the world, often by means of agents that include parties of adventurers. An adventuring group that has a powerful backer as a patron has a clear place in the world, access to additional resources, and the reason to work together in pursuit of a common cause. Each type of patron in this section includes the following information. An example of the general type of patron, including information about its organization, headquarters, allies, and enemies. Suggestions for various roles that characters in your party might take on, including classes, backgrounds, and skills that are useful for filling that role. Possibilities regarding your patron's background and your character's role is in it, including the kinds of adventures and missions you might undertake on its behalf. Benefits your group gets from your patron, which might include compensation, equipment, privileges, and proficiencies, and a list of potential contracts you could serve as your personal connection to your patron. Assignments. Patrons are more than a resource of your group to draw on. There are also responsibilities. Some patrons might be eager to support your group, while others might prove to be more demanding. Your group's patron might occasionally come to you and give you an assignment. This can be an easy way to get into an adventure. Of course, it's up to you how to respond to your patron's demand, and interesting stories can emerge if you decide to refuse an assignment. Even a patron that isn't heavy-handed might significantly motivate your group. Maybe you'll seek adventures based on what pleases your patron, and so earn a reward. A university example might not send you on a particular mission, but you might decide to follow leads to an ancient artifact, hoping that the university might reward you for bringing it back. You have the freedom to chart your own destiny, while still letting the patron shape the nature of your group and the adventures that you undertake. It might help to think of the patrons in this section in terms of three broad categories of autonomy. When you have a highly directive patron, you are the employee of an organization, and the organization often tells you what to do. Crime syndicates, dragon-marked houses, espionage agencies, military forces, and newspapers are typically highly directive. With a highly autonomous patron, you are more like a freelancer. Your patron might offer you assignments or award you for achieving certain objectives, but it doesn't dictate your activities. Adventurers, guilds, heads of state, immortal beings, inquisitive agencies, religious orders, and universities are typically highly autonomous. In a player-directed organization, you don't have a patron because your adventuring party is in charge. You're the boss. You tell others what to do, and you're responsible for no one for your own activities. A criminal syndicate, inquisitive agency, military force, or newspaper could be a player-directed organization. Benefits and favors. Every group patron offers your party a number of benefits for your service. These benefits range from standard business arrangements like a salary and access to staff facility to more extraordinary boons like audiences with powerful figures or exceptions from certain laws. Specific benefits are presented in more detail in the benefits section of each group patron. Beyond the benefits described in each group's patron description, patrons can also grant additional favors. If your party is in good standing with your patron, proving yourselves reliable agents who fulfill the group's goals, your patron might grant requests for additional favors. A favor might take a variety of forms appropriate to the patron's area of influence or expertise, such as small loans, specialized equipment, or access to people and places you wouldn't otherwise have. Patrons who you regularly find yourself in conflict with aren't likely to grant you favors, unless doing so directly furthers their goals. In any case, the DM shouldn't feel limited to providing only the benefits noted in each group's description. Patrons can give a party access to solutions and support that they wouldn't have otherwise, and a patron might use their varied resources to guide their agents or prepare them for greater adventures. Being your own patron. For certain kinds of organizations, you can either join an existing group or found your own. For some players, the idea of running a crime syndicate, inquisitive agency, mercenary company, or newspaper is much more exciting than working for someone else. Founding your organization offers a greater degree of autonomy, though potentially at the cost of support and reliable work. The information on this section applies whether you join an organization or found your own. When you're the boss, some of the benefits of belonging to an organization become expenses you have to worry about. When you run your own mercenary company, for example, you need to stock your own armory rather than drawing on an existing organization's stockpile. The organization brings in the income, but you'll have to spend some of it to keep the organization running. When you run into an organization, you can use the running a business downtime activity in Chapter 6 of the Dungeon Master's Guide to reflect your organization's ongoing activities. More than one character can take part in this activity at a time. When rolling to determine the business's performance, add the total days spent by all the characters to determine a business's success. If the business earns a profit, multiply that profit by 4 plus the number of characters who took part in the downtime activity. Okay, patrons in Eberron. The Adventurers Guild, the Crime Syndicate, the Dragonmart House, the Espionage Agency, the Head of State, the Immortal Being, the Inquisitive Agency, the Military Force, the Newspaper, the Religious Order, or the University. I'm sure there's many that you can invent, more than what we're currently reading at the moment. The Adventurers Guild, okay, so the rest of these are going to be just kind of descriptions of the individual guilds. Okay, so the Adventurers Guild. Your group has ties to a network of personal adventurers. These experts share contacts, resources, and leads in all manner of unusual and often dangerous work. Joining such a guild makes it an ideal choice if you want to keep your entanglements with the patron to a minimum, as an Adventurers Guild doesn't direct your activities or reward you for completing adventures. And so this is this is an example of a specific one. Guild benefits. I'm probably going to skip the specific descriptions, and then I'm just going to go on to Adventurers Guild benefits. People will, have the option of creating a guild for their own game, or joining a guild with those. As members of adventurer guilds, you gain the following benefits: accommodations. You can stay at the guild hall. The room is comparable to one you would find in a comfortable inn, but at a modest price. Dues. They require the annual contribution of 13 gold points paid to the Clifftop Adventurers Guild. I mean, if it's only annual, then 13 gold is a bargain. Information in Adventurers Guild headquarters makes a good place to learn about topics relevant to adventurers' interests. If you need to find someone who's knowledgeable about the Mournland, for example, the Clifftop Guild's headquarters in Sharn is a good place to look. Referrals. The guild can recommend hired services to its members, drawing on other guild members' experience to provide honest, reliable, and skillful hirelings. And storage. The guild will store items for its members. It has an account with the House Kundrik banks that will allow its members to store valuables in secure vaults. Okay. And so this is information on the build. And then that takes us to Crime Syndicate. In a crime syndicate, your group is a team of crooks that are part of an organized crime syndicate. You are more talented and have a wider range of skills than most thugs and burglars, so your crew might be entrusted with more important tasks than simply roughing up local merchants or breaking into empty apartments. If you're anything like a typical adventuring party, you bring a combination of powerful magic, physical might, and a broad selection of skills to your work, making you well suited to missions like grand heists, high-profile assassinations, and epic cons. Patron benefits. The Boromore clan doesn't pay you, but it might assign you... So, assignments. The Boromore clan doesn't pay you, but it might assign you to particular tasks. Sometimes there are tasks someone has hired the syndicate to perform, such as an assassination, in which case the syndicate passes 85% of the fee onto your group. Other times your aim is to enrich the syndicate, at which you have the privilege of keeping 85% of what you steal. Other syndicates might have more or less than 15% share at the DM's discretion. Contraband. You have access to your syndicate's business of dealing with contraband such as poison or narcotics. You don't receive a discount, but you can always find some place to purchase them. Fences. Members of associates of your syndicate are skilled at disposing of stolen goods, and you have access to this service as well. Fences are useful for selling not just illicit goods, but also expensive items such as work of arts and even magic items. In the case of magic items, this allows you to delegate the work of finding a buyer. The drawback is you don't get to choose whether to accept the offer you might receive. The fence is the one who's going to make that call for you. Immunity. As a member of the Boromar clan, you are protected from other members of the clan. No one in your syndicate targets you for their own criminal operations. On the other hand, if you have rivals of the clan, they may find other ways to infiltrate your activities. So, syndicate content. Other crimes, I guess. Okay. The Dragonmark House. Your group works for one of the most influential organizations in Corvair. The Dragonmark Houses, whether or not any member of your group carries a Dragonmark or is even related to one of the houses by blood, you act on behalf of a house to advance its interests. You might function openly as a representative, wearing its badge and exerting its authority, or you could be covert or unacknowledged agents. When a Dragonmarked house has your group's patron, you have the following benefits. Compensation. Your house pays you for the work you do on its behalf. On the average, the house pays each member of your group an amount equal to 10 gold points times the average level of your characters per day you spend on the mission. House services. When you acquire the services provided by your patron house, you can secure them at a discounted rate, which is 10% off of the normal charge. Gosh, this is exactly like working at the Gap. You might also be able to trade in a favor to get extraordinary services or a larger discount. Independence. Each member of your group is issued papers that identify you as agents of your patron house because the Dragonmark houses are bound to political neutrality by the terms of your ancient court edicts. These papers guarantee you the right to travel freely across national borders on the business of your patron house. You assert that you're on the business of the house, and even if you aren't, border agents are unlikely to challenge you. Retail, the game. Well, I might have played a board game that directly had to do with retail sales at some point. I've forgotten more games than I actually know that I've played at this point. It are sad. Okay, so house missions, house status, house contacts. The 12. Rather than working for one single house, your group could work for an organization that serves them all, which is the 12. This is a good option if you want to be involved in the intrigue among the Dragonmarked houses while playing characters from different houses. The 12 facilitates communication and cooperation among the Dragonmarked houses. As part of the agreements that ended the War of the Mark, the houses agreed to create an institute for the application of magic, a foundation that would study Dragonmarks, along with more traditional forms of magic. Over the centuries, the 12 has been responsible for many magical advances, including the airships operated by House Lysander and the message stations of House Civis. As an arm of the Dragonmarked houses, the 12 attempted to remain neutral during the last war, but many of its wizards and artificers had national loyalties that were stronger than their ties to the Institute. Now that the 12 has resumed normal operations, it seeks to replace its lost members and make sure that each house is represented. While the 12 provides a way for your group to work with multiple Dragonmarked houses, its goals and benefits are similar to those of an individual house. Consider using the following details as a template if there's a particular Dragonmarked house you wish to serve. Patronage. As a patron, the 12 is functionally similar to a Dragonmarked house. Rather than advancing one house interest, the 12 seeks to advance magical developments that are practical of value to society as well as potential for profit. All the houses contribute to the operating budget of the Institute, and in theory, they all benefit from the results of its research. As agents of the 12, you might undertake missions intended to help one house at a time or all of them at once, typically with a focus of magical research or problem solving. Members of your group might have different statuses within their houses, but within the 12, you are held as equals. The 12 that you pay, and as their agents, you receive a 5% discount on services from all the Dragonmarked houses. It does not surprise me that such a thing exists. Yeah, it would be hard not to. Okay, leadership. The Committee of 12 oversees the Institute. It currently has 15 members, though its membership is a matter of significant disagreement within the Council. There are, of course, only 12 magic dragon marks, but the Mark of Shadow is represented by 2 different houses. At House Kenneth is currently fragmented into 3 branches. The 12 is headquartered in a many-spired keep that floats in the air above the city north in Karnath. Most researches funded by the 12 operate within this structure, but the Institute only pays grants to researchers whose promising work can't easily or safely be relocated inside the keep. With the record of providing a benefit to society at large, the 12 is widely respected. Some of their closest allies include the Dragonmarked houses, King Caius, the Manifest Institute, enemies, Arcane Congress, and Mordain the Flesh Weaver. Not many personal grudges jeopardize the 12, but when a powerful wizard feels slighted, the impact can be significant. The elf wizard Moradin was banished from the 12 more than 2 centuries ago because of his disturbing experiments related to the magic of the Delkier. He dwells in Drome now, focused on his research and plotting revenge. His reach isn't long, but agents of the 12 avoid Drome if all possible. Avoid the flesh-weaving wizard that is in a very remote part of the realm of Eberron and is particularly feared by the Council of the 12. Alright. So, unfortunately, we're not going to get to the very end of this chapter before the stream is going to end. So, it's I think that it's probably most intriguing, to do a campaign, based around the 12, because you're actually working within, the very delicate interrelationships of political standings in that kind of situation. But anyways, I digress. I digress. I must keep digressing. I must force myself to digress as I get myself back over to my office. Alrighty then, thank you everybody for tuning in to Brainy the RPG Cat. Once again, I remain Brainy the RPG Cat. As usual, our stream is brought to you by greatmedia.games. For inexpensive TCG single cards, visit greatmedia.games and use the code 10Finity at checkout for 10% off your online purchase. So tomorrow I'm going to be back on and I'm going to be playing Bendy and the Ink Machine. I'm going to try to make it as long of a play as I possibly can. And if not, there's a very good chance that I might finish that let's play, while doing a marathon on October 31st. That's Halloween, which is also Monday, which is also the day that I get off for work. So it does permit me to actually be streaming for a long time on Monday. And also, speaking of Monday, I am going to, this coming Monday, October 24th, we are going to be airing our first episode of Tales from the Meowing Portal, the official actual play RPG of this Twitch channel, which is going to be awesome. I've already shown you the previews. You can watch them again by following me on any of my social media pages, Twitter, TikTok, and Facebook. But I digress. Once again. Anyways, this would be a good time to do a raid. Let me see. Who would I like to visit right now? Usually I have my browser open, but I just decided to go back to this other page. Silly me. I'll remember not to do it that way next time. I think I would like to pay a visit to... Let's see. Maybe. Let's go over to the Antlered Alchemist. Right now, the Antlered Alchemist is playing a game of Divinity Original Sin. That should be interesting. Let's go ahead and let's shout out. Eberron sounds pretty cool. I'm liking it a lot. I'm liking it too. I've got to set up another stream where I read more about it next week. So, I misspelled that. Oh, the Antlered Alchemist. There's a "the" in their name. There we are.
I breathe.
Okay,
I breathe and they come.
This was broken. That was brief. Anyways, let's go ahead and let's go over to our channel. Okay, folks, so once again, I'm going to be here on Sunday so that we can play Brainy and the Ink Machine. And then Monday is the premiere of Tales from the Meowing Portal. I'm very excited. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Have a good evening, everybody, and thank you very much for watching.